Welcome to the Crawcast. I'm your host, George Krawczak, and these are my predictions of Week 15 of the NFL season. And if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money. So, the first game of the week is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams are going to win. This is going to be a very interesting game because both teams are probably coming off their best games of the season, with the Rams beating the Bills barely and then the 49ers absolutely destroying the Bears. I think this game is going to be very interesting because both these teams are trying to make the playoffs. It's going to be very close, and I think they're more likely going to have to win the division to make the playoffs as opposed to making it in the wild card. And it's going to be interesting because the 49ers are still a bit beat up. I don't think they'll have Nick Bosa next week. And then the Rams, their offense just looked amazing, but their defense completely collapsed. And they gave up 42 points. And I get it. The Bills have a really great offense, but they gave up 42 points. And that's kind of unacceptable when it comes to the defense. But their offense is so good. Matthew Stafford is clicking right now, and when Matthew Stafford's on a hot streak, it feels almost unstoppable to beat him. Brock Purdy played pretty well last week. Isaac Rendo played really great, although he's injured and may or may not play. So just overall, I think the Rams are going to win this. I think their offense is right now too hard to stop, and I think they're going to be carving up the 49ers. The next game is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Cleveland Browns. I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think this will be an extremely close game. Like, it might come down to a field goal or a Jameis Winston interception or something like that. I want to pick the Browns so bad because Jameis Winston, he is just such a lovable character. He is so funny, and we need to see more Jameis Winston press conferences. The one problem with that is that he's just not that great at football in the sense that either his pass is like one of the best passes you've seen, really great, or absolutely terrible interception. And just overall, it just seems like the Chiefs just keep somehow winning, and I think they're going to continue that streak. They're not that good. Their offense is struggling and their defense is pretty decent. It's just that like I said, they keep somehow getting lucky to win. And the Browns, I just don't see them pulling it off against the Chiefs, although anything can happen. The next game is the Carolina Panthers versus the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Panthers are going to win. I think Bryce Young is finally going to get like an established win under his belt. He has definitely been playing better and better. He should have won last week versus the Eagles if Xavier Legette didn't drop his touchdown pass. But Bryce Young keeps getting better and better and proving to the Panthers that he at least needs another year to earn the opportunity to be their future franchise quarterback. And then with the Cowboys, their defense is definitely playing better, and their offense is clicking quite a bit with Rico Dowdle playing better. But just overall, I think the Cowboys are a better team than the Panthers. It's just that this is Bryce Young's moment. Bryce Young is playing way better, and I just think he's going to establish himself by beating the Cowboys right now. The next game is the Miami Dolphins versus the Houston Texans. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. The Dolphins' defense is struggling right now and not playing well, but I do think the Dolphins are going to win. Their offense is just on fire and clicking right now. Tua's playing great. Tyreek Hill is playing good. Jalen Waddle's playing good. Their run game is struggling a bit, but just they don't need it when their three offensive playmakers are playing so well. The Texans, yes, they're coming off a bye week, but they have been struggling quite a bit this season. CJ Stroud's really hasn't been playing good, and Joe Mixon's been playing great. And it's just going to be interesting how it works out with the secondary of the Texans because the Dolphins, the Texans, their pass rush will probably be non-existent in the sense that the Dolphins get the ball off so quickly. Tua has such a quick release from snap to throw that they're it kind of eliminates all defensive pass rush, and it's just going to be up to if the secondary can handle that and play that well. And we'll see if Derek Stingley can hold up. And it's going to be an exciting matchup. And then the offense, how will the Texans offense of CJ Stroud do? CJ Stroud has been struggling a bit this season, but the Dolphins defense has been playing pretty bad this year too. So I do think it'll be a really close game. I just think the Dolphins are going to win. The next game is the New York Jets versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Jets are going to win. So this is kind of interesting. So it looks like Aaron Rodgers will start for this team, and the Jets are just in a tough position because they have nothing to play for, and no one's really playing for the future. And what I mean by that is in the sense that I do think they should bench Aaron Rodgers just because the number one thing you're risking is him getting injured. You do not want that at all whatsoever. And here's the thing, you're kind of in a gray area because he obviously does want to come back to the Jets next year, but you don't know if your new head coach or new general manager is going to want him just because you plain and simple haven't hired these people yet. And it's going to be up to them if they want Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and those guys. And so I think I hate to say it because it feels like you need to make a decision before they get there, but talk to your general manager and basically say, hey, do you believe we are one roster move away from winning a Super Bowl? And then say to the coach, hey, do you believe we're better coaching away from the Super Bowl? And then if both the general manager and head coach believe that, you bring Rodgers back, you bring Devontae Adams back, and you try to go for another year. And then if they don't believe that, then blow the whole thing up. But so it looks like they're not going for tanking because this is what you look for: is Aaron Rodgers getting injured. You don't want him to get injured because number one, if he does get injured and has a long-term injury, he has to be on the roster. You can't cut him. And then number two, if you just want to lose to get a worse draft or to get a better draft pick and a higher overall draft pick. But it looks like they're going to try to win the game because Jeff Ulbrich is not going to get the head coaching job. He just hasn't done well. But I do think he at least wants to try to earn himself a coaching position elsewhere. And then I think they're going to try to end strong. Like, I don't know if you remember, but it was a couple of years ago, the Lions, where they started terrible. I think they started like 3-6, and then they ended up being 9-8 at the end of the season. And so maybe that's what the Jets are trying to do: build momentum towards next season and try to continue that next year. But overall, the Jets, again, they're not a terrible team. It's just that it feels like in each of these games, you know, uh, one of their uh, either their offense or their defense or special teams just struggles. One of their phases of the football. When their defense is playing great and special teams are playing great, their offense is horrible. When their offense is great and their special teams is great, their defense is horrible. And then when their offense and defense are great, they're missing field goals left and right, and that's costing them the game. And then the Jaguars, obviously Mac Jones is starting, and the Jaguars are just terrible. They couldn't beat the Titans last week. They played horrible. And again, the Jets aren't that bad. I think I'd consider the Jets like the reverse Chiefs in the sense where the Chiefs are playing bad and they're constantly winning football games. And then anytime the Jets play good, they're constantly losing football games. And so overall, I think the Jets are going to win this, and it could be a blowout. The next game is the Washington Commanders versus the New Orleans Saints. I think the Commanders are going to win. The Saints quarterback will probably be Jake Hanner. I can't imagine they're going to start Spencer Rattler after what he's shown so far. They have no quarterback. Their defense has been struggling a bit, even though they did play well last week, although it was the Giants. And the Commanders, I think this is a get right game. They did struggle the past couple of games, even though last week was their bye week. And I just think they need a get right game to just, get everything back on track. And this will do it. They will have to struggle with Kamara, and maybe Kamara will kind of torch their defense. But overall, I just think the Commanders are going to win this, plain and simple. They're a good team, and the Saints aren't. That's kind of that. The next game is the Baltimore Ravens versus the New York Giants. I think the Ravens are going to win. The Ravens are better in every way than the Giants. Although it's just a gut feeling of mine. I do think this will be a really close game, just because it seems like the Ravens have close games of bad teams. Like for example, when they lost to the Raiders, I think this will be a very very close game, and maybe the Ravens will win it by a field goal. But you can't pick the Giants over the Ravens. Drew Lock hasn't been playing good. Tyrone Tracy's not playing good. Their best player is Dexter Lawrence, and he's out for the year. So just overall, the Giants are a complete mess right now, and the Ravens they're clicking, and they're going to be trying to make the playoffs and probably making the playoffs, and we'll see how far they can make it. The next game is the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Tennessee Titans. I think the Bengals are going to win. Kind of what I said before. Just the Titans are a bad team. They lost to the Jaguars. I get it. Will Levis is injured, but even Will Levis being injured, he wasn't playing that good. And the Bengals, even though they have almost a 0% chance of making the playoffs, they're still trying. And Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are two of the best players in the NFL. And I feel bad for Joe Burrow because I definitely think he should be in the MVP conversation. But because their defense is so bad and losing them all these games, he's not. And just overall, this really shouldn't be a close game at all. The Bengals are just better than the Titans. The next game is the Buffalo Bills versus the Detroit Lions. I think the Bills are going to win. This is going to be a very, very exciting game, and this is potentially a Super Bowl preview right here. So here's comparing the two teams. Offenses. These two teams have both of the best offenses in the NFL. And I do think the Lions are better because it feels like the Bills' offense kind of just goes through Josh Allen, and he's like their only playmaker, constantly getting things done. Whereas with the Lions, they have, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff, uh, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They probably have the best offensive line in the NFL. So I do think the Lions' offense is better than the Bills. But then in the defense, it is interesting. The Bills did just have their worst defensive performance this season when they gave up 44 points to the Rams. And although, generally speaking, the Bills' defense has been pretty good this year. And then the Lions, I just don't think their defense is that good. They gave up 31 to the Packers, I believe. And just did not play very well last week. It is interesting that Aaron Glenn did kind of run the Brian Flores defense last week in the sense that he brought all the guys up to the line and then sent a few backs, and like basically didn't tell like, okay, which ones are coming and which ones are going. And I do think that is a good strategy to kind of create simulated pressure because their guys aren't getting it done because of the injuries. And so overall, I think the Lions are probably like a net better team. I just think the Bills are going to win this. I think this will be very close, and it's going to come down to basically who makes the first mistake or who has the ball more. It's going to be like who has the ball in the final possession to go down and score the game-winning field goal or game-winning touchdown, or it's going to be out of Jared Goff and Josh Allen who throws the first interception, who throws or who fumbles the ball first. I think this is going to be an insanely close game, and it's going to go either way. And I think this is going to be a very exciting game, and probably could potentially be the game of the year. And the Bills defense, again, they're terrible last week, but Rasul Douglas has been playing pretty well. Von Miller's been playing pretty decent when he's not suspended. And again, overall, I think these are two pretty comparable teams. I just think the Bills are going to win. The next game is the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The battle for Pennsylvania. I think the Steelers are going to win. The Eagles just seem to be on a downturn. It's Jalen Hurts really hasn't played well since he had that basically his MVP season when they went to the Super Bowl. I understand he didn't win it because he got injured, but he really hasn't played that great since it. But Saquon Barkley has just been putting the team on his back and playing insanely, insanely well. The Eagles, their corners are playing pretty well. Quinion Mitchell and uh, Cooper DeJean, even though they should have lost to the Panthers this week, their offense just kind of struggled. And this is what I've noticed almost every week. Philadelphia just has an extremely slow first half, and they struggle out the gate. The Steelers, this is going to be interesting because it looks like George Pickens will probably be out again. And their offense really struggled without him. They really didn't have a receiver step up. And, like, who was it? Kelvin Austin didn't step up. Pat Freiermuth had a decent game. Mike Williams didn't step up. And so their offense did struggle. But this Steelers defense is really, really great against the run. And so that makes me a little bit nervous. If you shut down Saquon Barkley in the run, can Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown throw on you when they've been struggling quite a lot recently? So I don't know. This could go either way. I just think the Steelers overall are going to win this. It could be really close. I just think the Steelers are going to win. The next game is the New England Patriots versus the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Patriots are going to win. That's another interesting one where I do think it's going to be an upset with the Patriots just because Arizona's been struggling a lot recently. Kyler Murray has not been playing well at all. Their defense is the thing that's really kind of helped keep them together, but their defense didn't play great at all last week. And just overall, I think it's going to be the Patriots. Their offense is definitely overperforming. Drake May's playing really well, but definitely better than expectations. Their defense is just not good, and I think the Cardinals are a better team. It's just that right now it seems like the Patriots are playing better than the Cardinals. And this game could go either way. It's just that Kyler Murray has been playing really great this year and then kind of has collapsed in recent weeks. And so I don't know if it's just the Call of Duty curse, even though it missed a week, it's caught back up on him or what. But just overall, just I think the Patriots are going to win. The next game is the Denver Broncos versus the Indianapolis Colts. This is going to be a very interesting game. I think the Broncos are going to win, but it's going to be an interesting game between Anthony Richardson and Bo Nix. Anthony Richardson did play, has been playing better, and so you do have to give him credit for that. But the issue is that the Broncos are so good. Their defense has been playing really, really great. Their offense has been clicking, even though Bo Nix did struggle against the Browns. Overall, I just think the Broncos are a better team, and they are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they'll go far in the playoffs. I just think they're overall better than the Colts, and so they'll win. The next game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Buccaneers are going to win. The Buccaneers running game played really, really well last week, especially after Bucking Irving got injured. And then Baker Mayfield, he did throw a couple of bad interceptions, but overall he's been playing good. Mike Evans been playing great. And just the Chargers are also just decimated with injuries. Ladd McConkey may not play, and he's basically their only wide receiver. I understand that Quentin Johnston did play better last week, finally catching a couple of passes. But just overall, I don't think Justin Herbert's been playing really elite this season. I think he's just been playing above average to average. And I think the Buccaneers are just a better team. This could go either way because the Chargers are a little bit streaky, but their run game has been severely hampered after J.K. Dobbins got injured. And uh, who is it? Gus Edwards just hasn't been able to pick up the load. So overall, I just think the Buccaneers are a better team and should win this game. The next game is the Seattle Seahawks versus the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers are going to win. This is going to be a very interesting matchup because the Packers' offensive line played horrible last week. Jair Alexander's probably not going to play, and this game kind of means a lot for both these teams in terms of making the playoffs. I do think there's going to be a couple of key matchups. Number one, the Packers corners versus the Seahawks wide receivers, mainly Jackson Smith-Njigba. I do think he has a shot of having a really, really great day. All the Packers corners are injured, and the backups are absolutely horrible. And so I think that's going to be one factor. And the second factor is going to be Josh Jacobs versus the Seahawks offensive line, or defensive line. The Seahawks defensive line has not been playing well really at all this year. They've been struggling quite a bit, and their defense has been struggling quite a bit. So I do think it's going to be one of those where Geno Smith is going to probably have a lot of passing yards. Maybe he'll throw a couple interceptions. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to have himself a day and probably go well over 100 yards. I think overall the Packers are going to win this, but this is going to be close. And it feels like it's always a really close, really good game between these two teams because you got all those playoff matchups, you got the Fail Mary, and so anything can happen. I just think the Packers are going to win because I think they are a better football team. The next game is the Chicago Bears versus the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to win. It is interesting because the Bears almost beat the Vikings a couple of weeks ago and probably should have beat the Vikings. And then last week, the Bears just simply collapsed. I don't know if it's just Thomas Brown becoming head coach is like getting to him or something, but the Bears just were absolutely terrible. And it's kind of inexplainable just how they regressed from, one week almost being the Packers, then almost being the Vikings, then almost beating the Lions, and then absolutely falling apart against the 49ers. And so I honestly I don't even think this will be a close game. And then the Vikings are looking really good. Sam Darnold, Jordan Addison, uh, Justin Jefferson all looked great last week. Aaron Jones fumbled, but actually he didn't fumble last week, but he has had a fumbling problem throughout the year, but he's been playing great. So overall, I think this probably won't even be a close one. I think the Vikings are going to win this handily. The final game of the week is the Atlanta Falcons versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Falcons are going to win. The Falcons really need a game like this in the sense that the Raiders have been playing terrible all year. Now, Aiden O'Connell went down and Desmond Ritter is going to start for them. The Raiders simply just aren't good, and the Falcons need this because Kirk Cousins has been struggling quite a bit. I don't think he's struggling as much as his statistics say, but he has been struggling quite a bit. And then just overall, their defense needs a great game. Their offense needs a great game. And I think they'll have it against the Raiders. And they'll get a win, start building their confidence to try to take the division from the Buccaneers. I know a lot of people are saying that Falcons should bench Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix Jr., and I just don't think it's a great idea. Just because right now you are trying to win the Super Bowl, win the division, make the playoffs, And just who gives you a better shot at winning games, Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix Jr.? And I think right now you have to say Kirk Cousins, and you have to at least um, give Kirk Cousins a shot because you gave him all this money, and you have to let the experiment play out and finish. So overall, again, the Falcons need a get-right game, and I think this is what it will be. So that's what I think will happen in Week 15 of the NFL season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money. I'll see you on the next one.